There is a peculiar danger in the man who does not flinch when the world trembles. You've seen storms tear through cities, rip branches from ancient trees, scream across empty valleys, yet somewhere in the mountains, a single stone sits untouched, unmoved, unbothered. That stone is what Musashi understood himself to be, a presence so still that the chaos around him revealed its own foolishness, a force so inwardly anchored that enemies felt his gravity before he even placed a hand on the hilt of his sword. You look at the modern world and notice how loud it has become. Men twitching at every notification, flinching at every comparison, drowning in the restless wind of constant stimulation. They move like leaves caught in a storm, frantic, directionless, pulled by everything except their own will. Yet the ancient warriors were a different species of man. They did not rise to meet the world's noise. They descended deeper into an inner silence, a silence that frightened onlookers more than the clashing of steel. This is the paradox you quietly feel in your bones. The stillest man is often the most feared, for stillness is not softness. Stillness is stored power. It is the mountain that does not respond to the wind, because it knows the wind will tire long before stone breaks. When you cultivate this quiet, people sense it long before you ever act. It hangs around you like an unseen tension. They do not know whether you are merciful or merciless. They only know you are not swayed by noise, and nothing is more unsettling than a man who remains calm when he has every excuse to shake. You become the mountain, and the storm, for the first time, hesitates. There is a moment in every man's life when he realizes the noise destroying him is not coming from outside. It is the noise within, the restless mind, the endless comparisons, the suffocating swarm of things that don't matter but demand attention as if they do. You live in an age where your peace is stolen by 1,000 small daggers, notifications, urgency, opinions, the subtle pressure to be everywhere and everything all at once. No warrior can find clarity in such a storm. But Musashi knew another kind of world, a single breath, a sharpened blade, a mind quiet enough to hear itself again. He trained not to escape chaos, but to see through it, and in doing so, he discovered the truth modern men have forgotten. Peace is not an addition to your life, it is the removal of what weakens you. When the noise inside you dies, something strange happens. Fear loses its anchor. Doubt has nothing to cling to. What once felt overwhelming becomes nothing more than distant weather. You begin to move differently. Decisions sharpen, vision clears. You stop reacting to every movement in the world, because your inner world no longer echoes with confusion. This is why peace is power, because most men are full, crowded, cluttered. Their minds are stuffed rooms with no space to move. You, however, when you empty yourself of noise, become like an open field. You can see far. You can sense threats before they appear. You can act without hesitation, because nothing inside you trips over itself. Musashi said the mind must be like an empty cup, ready to be filled with only what is essential. A peaceful mind is not passive. It is prepared. It is precise. It is the kind of mind that enters a room, and without saying a word, shifts the atmosphere, because silence, when earned, speaks louder than agitation ever will. Power transforms in strange ways. In the beginning, a man seeks victory to prove something to the world, to his enemies, to himself. But Musashi reached a point where the fight no longer defined him. He became the kind of warrior who did not need to draw his sword to win. The ultimate aim, he wrote, is not to win 100 battles, but to win without drawing the sword. This is a form of power rarely seen in the modern age. Today's man is conditioned to react, to defend his ego, to compete for attention, validation, and relevance. He swings wildly at every imagined threat, because his identity is fragile and borrowed. But the man who has found peace no longer needs these battles. He operates on a different frequency, slower, deeper, more deliberate. His restraint is not weakness. It is mastery. When you stop reacting, you become unpredictable. The world cannot read a man who no longer dances to its frantic rhythm. Peace makes you terrifying because it removes you from the emotional economy others depend on. They cannot provoke you. They cannot manipulate you. They cannot pull you into their chaos. Because you do not respond to noise. You move only when the movement matters. The insecure cannot understand this. They mistake peace for passivity. Yet they feel the sharpness of your presence, like a blade still sheathed, unseen, untouched, but undeniable. It is not the loud blade that commands respect. It is the one that remains hidden. Because everyone knows it will only be drawn with intention. A peaceful man no longer seeks to prove himself, and that is what makes him dangerous. For a man who needs nothing cannot be controlled, and a man who does not need the fight often ends it simply by standing his ground. He becomes the storm contained in a single breath. There is a kind of freedom that looks almost inhuman from the outside. Freedom that makes people uneasy because they cannot understand it, cannot predict it, cannot bend it. Musashi called it no preference, a mindset in which a man is shaped not by desire, but by purpose. He did not cling to comfort, reputation, or even victory. He detached from everything except the path he walked. This is where peace becomes something more than calm. It becomes lethal clarity. Most men are prisoners of their cravings. They chase approval. They cling to outcomes. They negotiate their worth with the world, hoping for applause to confirm they exist. But a detached man is owned by nothing. His emotions do not drag him, his ego does not chain him, and his fears do not bargain on his behalf. Peace, when purified, becomes the death of emotional slavery. Imagine walking through chaos without a single need to be understood, admired, or validated. You do not argue, you do not beg, you do not perform. You simply exist with a quiet certainty that unsettles everyone who still depends on the world for their identity. This is dangerous, because a man who can walk away is a man who cannot be controlled. You become the kind of presence that people cannot manipulate, the kind who leaves rooms when they turn toxic, without explanation, without theatrics, without looking back. Your silence becomes a message. Your absence becomes a statement. Your detachment becomes authority. Musashi held the world like water in his palm, not gripping, not clutching, simply letting it rest until it was time to let it go. He understood that attachment is the root of fear, and fear is the root of manipulation. When you detach, the world loses its leverage over you, and the man who cannot be leveraged becomes untouchable. He is free in the most unsettling way, free not because life is easy, but because nothing owns him anymore. This is the freedom that makes peace dangerous. There is a strange discomfort that rises in people when they meet a man who will not mirror them. The world expects you to match its speed, echo its fear, participate in its collective urgency. When someone raises their voice, you are expected to raise yours. When someone rushes, you are expected to hurry. When someone panics, you are expected to tremble. But when you don't, when you remain calm, you expose everything they are trying to hide. Modern culture glorifies noise. Urgency is mistaken for importance. Outrage is mistaken for strength. But your peace stands in the center of this chaos like a silent accusation. It reveals how unnecessary the frenzy truly is. It shows people the emptiness of their rush, the fragility of their anger, the hollowness of their posturing. And this unsettles them. They see in you what they lack within themselves. A mind that does not fracture under pressure. A presence that does not distort to match the environment. A rhythm that is not dictated by the world's instability. When you respond slowly, others reveal themselves quickly. Their insecurities surface. Their motives slip. Their masks crack. Because your stillness becomes a mirror, one that does not distort. And few people are ready to see their reflection without the protective blur of noise. Peace is like still water. Look into it, and you see what lies beneath the surface, the beauty, the fear, the truth, the shadows. Most men avoid this kind of water, but you become it, clear, undisturbed, unapologetically present. Your calm makes others uncomfortable, because it forces them to confront the storm they carry inside, and the deeper your peace becomes, the louder their inner chaos sounds, in comparison. Authority is misunderstood in the modern age. People imagine it as loud commands, raised voices, exaggerated confidence. But true authority is not vocal, it is energetic. It is the natural weight of a man who does not wobble when others push, does not bend when others plead, does not collapse when pressure rises. Musashi embodied this silent authority. His presence alone could steady the air in a room. He did not need theatrics to lead. His groundedness was enough. When a man is centered, his decisions move slowly, but with inevitability, like a boulder rolling down a mountainside. Unstoppable, because nothing rushed it into motion. Peace is what gives you this gravity. A peaceful man sees further than those trapped in emotion. He chooses carefully. He moves with purpose, not impulse. And because he is not dragged by inner turmoil, others instinctively follow his steadiness. They trust the man who is not at war with himself. This is why calm men lead without trying. Their presence speaks a language others have forgotten how to hear. When you are grounded, people sense safety around you, not comfort, but stability, a direction they can align with, a rhythm they can match. You become like a lantern in a dark room. You do not shout, you do not demand. You simply shine, and people move toward you because they cannot help it. The light does not chase them. They are drawn by its certainty. Your authority grows in silence, not the silence of passivity, but the silence of knowing who you are and refusing to be rushed out of that center. Every step you take becomes deliberate. Every word you speak becomes measured. Every boundary you set becomes a quiet declaration of self-mastery. A centered man leads not because he seeks leadership, but because people instinctively trust the ground he stands on. If you listen closely, there is a point where peace stops being calmness and becomes something sharper, something that feels like a blade hidden beneath your breath. Peace, when carried correctly, is not softness. It is precision. It is the refined state of a man who can act with terrifying accuracy because nothing inside him shakes. This is where peace transforms into power. In the ancient world, warriors trained relentlessly to reach this state, not to become emotionless, but to become untouchable by emotion. When nothing disturbs you, you see everything. The smallest detail, the slightest shift, the faintest threat. Chaos blinds frantic men, but it illuminates the peaceful one. Modern chaos rewards reaction. Whoever responds first, whoever speaks fastest, whoever moves without thinking. But Musashi would have seen this as the highest form of weakness, because reaction is not power. It is surrender wearing the mask of urgency. Intention is power, and intention only appears when peace has washed away fear, noise, and doubt. In this silence, you begin to move with a different certainty. Your decisions have weight. Your actions carry meaning. You strike not because you feel pressured, but because the moment demands it. And when you strike, the world feels it. Peace makes you dangerous because it makes you deliberate. It removes hesitation. It kills confusion. It strips away the frantic energy that causes mistakes. You become capable of immense force delivered with absolute clarity, the kind of force that cannot be predicted, cannot be manipulated, cannot be provoked. A still lake may look quiet, but its depths know things the surface cannot show. That is you, an ocean disguised as calm water. Depths no storm can measure, strength no chaos can summon, presence no noise can disturb. This is the true evolution of peace. Not passive, not gentle, but sharpened, focused, absolute. A force contained so completely that when it moves with the weight of a life that is no longer divided. Peace is the edge of the blade you carry within. There comes a moment when a man must step back into the world, not to join its noise, but to walk through it, unchanged. You become a different presence after cultivating peace. Not louder, not harder, simply anchored in a way that others can feel but cannot name. The world does not need more men who shout. It does not need more men who flail in every direction, chasing validation or drowning in distraction. It needs men who can stand in the center of the storm and remain themselves. Men whose silence carries weight. Men whose calm bends the atmosphere around them. Peace is not an accident. It is a discipline, a daily sharpening of awareness, a quiet confrontation with yourself. Each breath becomes an act of returning, each moment a chance to choose presence over panic. You learn to move without rushing, to speak without spilling, to act without reacting. This changes you. The man who finds peace becomes unshakable in a shaking world. He no longer chases life, he meets it. He no longer fears chaos, he sees through it. He no longer collapses under pressure. He becomes the point around which pressure dissolves. Musashi's final lesson is the one the modern world has forgotten. Master yourself, and the world bows without force. Not out of fear, but out of recognition. A recognition that you are governed by something deeper than circumstance. And so you walk back into the noise, carrying a silence that does not fade. A silence that moves with you like armor. A silence that reminds you that storms are temporary, but the ground beneath them is eternal. You return not as who you were, but as who you were meant to become. A man shaped by stillness, sharpened by peace, and strengthened by the quiet power that the world cannot imitate and cannot ignore.